This is my 3-inch infinity couple jet style nozzle I built. It's got about a 15-degree taper cone here. On the inside in here, there's 4 1/4-inch wide guides I machined and welded to the inside to center the pipe. The 3-inch pipe here. My 3-inch pipe elbow I used wasn't quite long enough, so I just welded another piece on. That's why you see this little scabby weld down here, but it's smooth on the inside. To make it adjustable, you loosen the shaft collar that I machined the ID to fit the pipe, and then you just break the 2 screws loose on each side to keep it from leaking. On between here, the front steel plate I welded to it is machined, and the inside edge of this is machined for a seal to fit in there, so you can loosen it, slide it in and out, tighten it down, and it seals. I'm running it with a 195 gallon per minute used Pacer pump I bought. Put a carburetor on it, and I probably got a third the price of a new one on it. It's got a 2-inch inlet. Took a reducer, machined the ID of the reducer to fit the pipe here, welded on the outside, and I also welded on the inside. This is the working end of it. It's pretty close to centered. Seems to work pretty good. My prospecting buddy that I met, that's originally from Arizona, we took it out last weekend and tried it. The only problem we had was, you might say it worked a little too good. When you got it anywhere close to a rock, it sucked it up in it, including the ones that were just a little bit too big. I mean, it would get them up in it, but because of the shape of the rock, it didn't get hung up in the body of it, but it was getting hung up coming out into the hose when it would turn. As it turns out, the way, for whatever reason, this evidently makes a vortex, because coming out of it through the blue water pipe I've got, you could see a vortex spinning out. So it was spinning the rocks instead of just blowing them through. And I've got a steel ring. I'm gonna put about a 1/4 inch off of it with a gap around it to make me a kind of a rock guard, so it'll cut it down to probably 2 3/4 ID in the middle of the rock guard. But it was sucking so hard that with the nozzle probably 4 to 6 inches underwater, it would start making a vortex on top of the water, make like a little cyclone going down to it. He said that he had never used a nozzle that sucked as hard as this one did. And we finally got a jam. I couldn't get out of the hose because the hose I had wedged on with it cold, and I knew there was no way we could get it off, but I've since figured a way to kind of stretch the hose, because this is 3-inch OD exhaust pipe. It's all mild steel. I didn't make this one out of stainless yet. I've got the parts to build another one. I just haven't got around to it yet. And I've also got the parts to build, almost all the parts to build a 2-inch. And I'm thinking about building a 4-inch just for the heck of it, but I don't have a dredge or high banker to run a 4-inch with. But this one here, I've been running it at anywhere from just above an idle to maybe half throttle. When I go above half throttle, you don't see any increase in flow or anything. And that's the beauty of this, is it'll run with a low pressure, high volume pump. From the research I did, I found out that it really doesn't like a high pressure, high volume pump like a regular dredge pump. One of those, you probably wind up running at an idle, I guess, if it's anything close to the same gallons per minute. Like I said, I'm gonna make a rock guard that I can clamp onto the front and take off if I need to. Doug suggested I drill a hole up here in the front and put a plug in it for a clean out, but I think it'd leave a spot for the rocks to jam, so I'm not going to do that. Later on, I may add drill and tap up here in the top or into this pipe a fitting where I can put a pressure hose instead of having to do like he does with his 2.5. Run a hose all the way from the pump up, just tap it off of this, because this thing, from what I'm seeing and what he's seeing, it's got an ungodly amount of suction. Which was the main idea, was I wanted something to really pull on something, and so far it's surprised both of us. One for me that it worked so good, and him, he was blown away that it worked. It sucked as hard as it did. He said finally I let him run it a while, and finally he said he just laid it down under the rocks where we were working and just started picking the huge rocks out, because the same thing happened to him was happening to me. Is you get it near a rock and it just suck it right up to the front and stop it, or suck it on in and jam up further down from where it was so big, odd shaped. So we're going to put a rock guard on the front, but he said what he started doing was he just set it down, pick the big rocks out, and shove it down into the spot, and in a matter of seconds it sucked all the gravel, rocks and stuff out. If you go on Facebook, the Backwoods Prospecting group, there's some pictures I posted of us in the creek running it and what it sucked out. So hopefully I got a winner. At least that's what he said. He said he was amazed how good it worked. But most of the parts are off-the-shelf parts. You just got to machine them right to make it work. And everybody says they're a pain in the butt to build. They're right. It is. But for the results you get, it is unreal, the suction you get. If you enjoyed watching, if you want one, let me know. We'll work out something.